You know that person on your friends list, the one who almost never posts a photo of themselves? Yeah, we all know someone like that. And in a world that basically screams, if you didn't post it, it didn't happen, their digital silence is, well, it's a real puzzle.
Our first guess is usually something negative, right? But what if that invisibility isn't about hiding at all? What if it's about something way more profound? What if it's not a weakness, but actually a sign of a very particular kind of strength?
We see that absence and we immediately slap a label on it: insecure, secretive, antisocial. But the psychology behind this behavior, it tells a completely different story. What we think is a negative could actually be a sign of real power, smart strategy, and deep authenticity.
So, let's go a little deeper here. Psychology shows us a much more complex reality. Choosing not to post isn't some kind of flaw. A lot of the time, it's a form of serious psychological power.
See, for most of us, social media runs on this one principle: self-verification theory. You post a photo, and whether you know it or not, you're asking the world, hey, do you still see me? Am I still relevant? Those likes, those comments, they're all feedback that confirms your self-image.
But the people we're talking about today, they play a different game entirely. They just don't need that digital mirror because they've already got a fine-tuned internal compass. They know who they are. No audience required.
And that brings us to this idea of the fortress of self. Now, this isn't about building walls to keep people out. Not at all. It's about having foundations so strong that you don't need anything external to prop you up.
At the very heart of this is something called intrinsic self-worth. Their confidence isn't based on performance, it's based on awareness. It doesn't shoot up with every like or crash every time someone scrolls past. It's just steady. It's independent of any audience.
This chart really shows you the fundamental difference. Look at where their validation comes from. For them, that intrinsic bar is sky high. Satisfaction comes from the inside, from their own experiences, from being present, not from the pretty low bar of extrinsic rewards like a little digital applause. So, the number one reason? They've completely shattered a core illusion of our time. The idea that being seen equals being valuable. Their identity doesn't depend on the crowd remembering them. It's about who they are when absolutely no one is watching.
Okay, but this isn't just a passive personality trait. It's an active, conscious choice. This is what we can call the strategy of silence.
People who don't post often have this amazing intuitive grasp of what psychologists call impression management. They get that every single post, no matter how innocent it seems, is a piece of data that's building a psychological profile of them inside other people's heads.
I mean, think about it. The cost of exposure is huge. One picture can give away your location, your mood, who you're with, maybe even your financial status or your daily routine. That's a ton of personal data. They understand that cost, and they choose to protect that information. It's a kind of privacy intelligence, really.
It all boils down to this powerful idea. They'd rather be misunderstood in silence than misjudged in exposure. The more you share, the more you invite people to interpret you, and let's be honest, those interpretations are rarely the full story, so they just opt out of the whole game.
And this is a path of very conscious control. First, they recognize that every single notification is just a stimulus designed to give you a little dopamine hit. Second, they choose emotional independence and peace over being reliant on that digital applause. And third, they master the stimulus control to protect their own mental energy and inner calm. So, if they're not invested in all that online display, what do they value instead? Well, that brings us to our final theme, a powerful preference for depth.
On social media, you can kind of split everyone into two groups: the performer and the observer. The people who don't post, they are often the observers. They aren't there to compete for attention. They're there to understand. They're watching, analyzing the fascinating patterns of human behavior playing out on our screens every day. They also manage to avoid this really interesting psychological trap called experience taking. You know, the act of pulling out your phone to record a moment can actually pull you out of it. It can literally reduce how well you remember and enjoy it. They'd rather have the deep presence than the perfect photo. And here's a cool side effect. By sharing less, they're practicing a form of information scarcity. This makes the moments they do choose to share so much more meaningful. It's not for public consumption. It's reserved for those deep, high-trust relationships. They're trading widespread visibility for real-life depth.
So it's really easy to look at a quiet profile and just see a void, right? Just emptiness. But as we've seen, this silence isn't emptiness at all. It's power.
So what is this power of the unseen?
It's psychological freedom. It's having total control over your own story. In a way, it's a quiet little rebellion against the constant pressure to perform. It's a filter that cuts through all the noise, leaving only what's authentic.
So why does all this matter? Because in a culture that is constantly pushing us to be more and more transparent, knowing how to protect your private inner self isn't being antisocial. It's a mature and, frankly, incredibly smart strategy for keeping your mental and emotional stability intact.
And that leaves all of us with one last big question to think about. In a world that is constantly performing for validation, what is the real value of your own, unperformed, authentic self?